if you set your mind to it and you've got an entrepreneurial kind of a spirit and you can see opportunity and you understand a bit about how this space works, there is an enormous opportunity for anyone, I believe, to make money, not just from an investment perspective, but to make a business in this space, because there are truly some amazing people. Like we spoke a bit about some of the bad actors and stuff, but there are also just like an incredibly talented bunch of people that work in this space, and that's been really, really inspirational for me.
It's fun, it's wild, it's Dad's Gone Crypto!
Welcome everybody to Dad's Gone Crypto, and today we got Richie from Cryptopia. He's one of the co-founders, and they're doing something in the space that is quite amazing. They're a VC firm, they've got charities happening, they've got NFT projects happening, and we're excited to just delve deeper into how it all works. There is some alpha in here, which is really, really amazing, so extract it. And if you are looking to get into crypto, there's also that as well. Listen carefully. But before we get there, Michael, how was your week?
It was great, actually. Thanks, Sean. It was my eldest daughter's birthday. She turned 6, so time flies. And sure. They asked for rollerblades. So my parents got them rollerblades, the eldest two, but they know I have rollerblades upstairs as well. So they really want me to join them. And I think next week I'll just go roller derby on their ass in front of the house and teach them how it's done.
You have to send videos of that, please, Michael.
I will. I got a special outfit for that.
Especially if there's blood.
Unless it's mine.
Just make sure you use protection.
I got tough kids, man. They got that.
No, I'm not worried about your
wife.
kids. I'm worried about you. And Ryan, tell me, how was your week?
We had a busy week. Let's see. My daughter had to have oral surgery. Had to have her one wisdom tooth cut out, and then when they were doing x-rays, they found a tooth up in her sinus cavity up there. Oh, yeah. So crazy. so they had to have that removed.
Was it a fang?
Yeah, it was like a fang up there, just working its way
down.
A vampire.
Did you throw some holy water just to check?
So now you know why that asparagus always went up the nose.
Yeah, right. That's all right. I told her it was the last remaining bit of the twin that she ate in the womb. So
that's dark.
So she was at home convalescing with us all week. So.
And then Monday she went to therapy.
Exactly.
I didn't mean to eat her. Oh, him. Or it.
Well, she also had a birthday this week too, so she turned 20. So she's old enough to put up with Dad's nonsense.
And pay for her own therapy.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
No, good times though. We ended up playing after she was recovering a bit. We had plenty of game nights here and played some. What were we playing the other night? Super Mario Brothers, kind of an all-night Super Mario Brothers party game we were playing. That was fun.
That's
cool.
Yeah, good times.
And just a fun fact there, a fun fact there, Ryan, just on the Super Mario's, statistically proven to improve an elderly person's memory.
Shots fired.
I'm not saying you're old. I'm just saying it's one of my research papers, how to improve muscle memory. When I was writing for the paper, I remember that one. I'm like,
well, I'll keep playing.
Good man. Oh, how was my week? Still crazy, but I'm starting to touch ends. So we're getting closer to more events and starting to prepare for that. I'm getting finally solar at my house, so it's all approved. Everything's ready to rock. So at the end of the month, I should have power. Power is a big problem in this country, and yeah, just the
Who'd you
usual. Yeah, we did our bribe. Shh, can't use those words. Yeah.
So wait, you're getting solar installed on your house? Is that what you said?
Yeah, not in the house, but on top of the house.
On the house, yeah, right. Very cool.
On the house.
I didn't know. I didn't know if it was your community or you. You're just getting it personal
no,
solar
no.
panels on your
Yeah.
place. That's really cool.
It's every man for himself here in this country, right? So we're getting. I think we're getting a 8 kVA, a system with 14 panels, Canadian solar. So I'm like, good. So
They don't have much sun up there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. No, but they make good quality products. So don't tell me I bought the wrong product. All right,
Experience with solar up in Canada.
it's very snow resistant and 34-degree heat. No, Canadian Solar is one of the top panel manufacturers in the world. So Elon Musk uses this for his guys. So that's what I've been told.
Hey, we found this South African that's going to buy it, eh? Don't tell him about the warranty.
I swear. I'll be visiting some Canadians.
No, you'll be fine, Sean. You'll be fine. You shine so bright.
Yeah, I'm going to get my teeth whitened so you at least see me in the dark if it doesn't work.
You'll charge those things just by yourself.
Yeah, thank you. My brightness.
You're such a ray of sunshine.
Thank you. My mom always said. Anyways, enough chit chat. Let's get on to the show, guys. Richie, and how you doing? So, Richie, welcome to Dad's Gone Crypto. It's an honor to have you on the show, and we're looking forward to finding a bit more about you and what you've been up to. First of all, are you a crypto dad?
I am a crypto dad, absolutely, yes. Yeah, well, thank you for having me on the show as well, guys. With absolute pleasure. But yes, first answer to the first question, yes, I am.
Awesome. So tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into crypto.
Yeah, sure. So we were just discussing a little bit before we started recording, but I worked in digital marketing, and before that traditional publishing, mainly from the commercial side of it, so advertising, sales, just normal sales, and then into sales leadership. And I did that for almost 20 years actually. Worked my way through the ranks and finished up in a relatively senior position for a large traditional publishing company, which also had a digital marketing arm as well, which I was heading up the commercial channels and on that agency. So I've spent a long time in the corporate world and all the stuff that comes along with that. Won't kind of dwell too much on that stuff, but I got into crypto about 3 years ago, I would say, just purely by chance, as I think it is probably for most people. Really, you kind of have a chat with someone in the pub and someone mentions how much money they made on Dogecoin or some other 100x project which they got themselves into, and just became fascinated by this idea of how can someone make so much money in such a short period of time. How is that actually possible? And it just sounds like completely made up, which I think when you first hear this stuff, or even when you try and explain to your family or friends, they just think you're completely bonkers, right? It's like, how is that possible? It must be all made up. All this internet money doesn't actually mean anything, until you actually prove that this stuff actually can happen. So I think that was the first encounter that I had with it. In fact, I remember specifically now, it was a friend of a friend who had mentioned about Dogecoin and what they'd made on on that whole project and the background of it as well. This kind of meme coin that had ended up making millionaires, and it just fascinated me. So I ended up getting a Binance account, I think, and a Coinbase account, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I think like most people at the start of crypto, I was like, I've got a few £100 spare, so I'm just gonna put some into this, and someone told me this one was a good one, so I'm just gonna put some into that. And I ended up making some money purely out of luck, just because of the turn of the market at the time. Then started getting more, putting more money into crypto and putting savings in, and then, like so many people, got my fingers burnt, quite badly. Which I think is one of those big learning curves that anyone that gets into crypto has to go through in order to start understanding more about how cycles work, and understanding more about the space in general. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it, really. I think it's probably pretty typical, really, in terms of the way that I got into it. It's just that kind of first kind of interest. And I would say that I'm someone that likes to take a little bit of a risk as well. And I think, if you're inclined that way anyway, then when someone tells you these things and kind of gives you that little bit of a nugget of, what, you made that much on that, right? Okay, well, that's really interesting. And then you kind of get into it. I think some people probably are very instantly like closed off to that stuff because they're kind of institutionalized somewhat, as so many people are. But I'm a little bit more open to those things, I think. So yeah, long-winded answer, but there you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think Elon will be excited to hear that Dogecoin got you actually into crypto.
Well, I don't think Elon needs to be too concerned about me with everything that he's doing, but yeah, I'm sure he would be.
All right, Richie, thanks for the elaborate intro. And you mentioned that you burned a little bit, just like all new people do. Could you explain a little bit about your lows and obviously, of course, also your highs in the crypto space?
Yeah, sure. The lows I think were just a product of not really knowing a great deal about what I was doing. And, like I said a minute ago, in terms of being quite willing to take a little bit of a risk, it was just almost like a roulette table for me. I was just sort of spreading, some money that I had around. And because I'd made a little bit on some coins, I can't remember exactly, I'm sure I'll come back to it in a second, but it kind of gives you that confidence, doesn't it? Just to say, well, why not just put a little bit more and everything's going up. It was almost like that invincible feeling that I'm sure we've all had. It's like, I can do no wrong here. Every time I put money in something, it's increasing. And, but of course, that isn't sustainable. But when you're caught up in the moment, when you first get into this space, the excitement takes over, doesn't it? The FOMO, as we call it, and it kind of just takes over all kind of rational thought, really, rather than thinking to yourself, right, hang on a minute, let me try and really understand what's going on here, and there's got to be winners and losers in all of this stuff. And I just wasn't thinking like that. I think I was just so caught up in the moment and this hype, and and everyone just saying, oh my god, I made this, I made thousands this week, and I made thousands in 5 minutes, today, and all this stuff, and it just kind of spurs you on. And then of course you wake up one morning and you see the chart is red, and you're like, hang on a minute, this hasn't happened before. So no, I wouldn't say I lost huge sums of money. I never got sillier with it and started taking loans out or putting money in that I really couldn't afford to lose, like some people do and get completely wrecked. But I think probably for transparency, probably lost 25-30 grand, I suppose, at one point. On paper, I'm still pretty much holding most of those tokens to this day, and I'm hoping for a recovery in the not too distant future. And yeah, I think I probably, it's like any of these situations, you sort of have to come to terms with it first, don't you, before you realize, how then to progress, and understanding more about the cycles, and then actually having the balls to then, to start dollar cost averaging in when the market goes back down, when you've just lost, a big chunk of your savings, and you're like, and then you're still going at it. Most people then, I think, would call you completely crazy. But it's when you've gone through an experience like that, and you start to get a better understanding, I think, of the way that this crazy world works. And by which point we'll come on to talk about Cryptopia, I'm sure, in a bit. I'd become a lot more involved. It had sort of consumed my life in many ways, not in a bad way. Like, I don't mean it as like an unhealthy obsession. It was like, I was spending all of my spare time, and just fascinated by all of this stuff, wanting to understand more about it. And I suppose you start to learn more about what the do's and the don'ts. So yeah, I think it was, again, probably very typical in terms of most people and their experiences in having that loss and the FOMO, then that kind of reality of, oh my god, this isn't quite as good as I thought it was, but actually there's still a really good opportunity here, and I want to stick at it. I don't want to abandon it like so many people do and sell at a loss and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, I recognize it quite well, actually. I think like what you mentioned, if you make a couple of grand in a couple of days, right, and you start extrapolating that to holy shit, what about if that continues for a year or something? What does my portfolio look like? You get punched in the face, right?
Yeah, you've got the calculator out, and you're like, God, if this carries on, I'm going to be buying this house, and I'm going to order the Porsche 911.
Exactly. I mentioned the same thing in our first show, in our introduction show. I was thinking about buying my neighbor's house, and that type of stuff.
Well, Yeah,
there was a lesson right around the corner there.
Mike ended up buying a Matchbox house.
Oh man, I had to sell it.
Well, it's like, with the whole DeFi summer and all these, Ponzi node schemes as well. I mean, that was, everyone got very caught up in all of that idea. I remember at one point doing all the calculations and just being completely naive to the whole thing, and of course then, it all comes tumbling down around you. But I'm a firm believer in that you have to go through these things in order to come out the other side, with a much better understanding of what you do need to do in order to be smart in this space and to, and to really make money. Because, once you go through that and you have that experience, like anything in life, right, as you get older, and I think, we're all of a certain age where we've had enough life experience to sort of understand the importance of that stuff. And, it's just part of the initiation, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So, you mentioned Cryptopia a little bit just now, and what I was wondering is, at what particular point in your, at first you're investing yourself, right? But at what particular point did you decide to build a community, and how did you meet your co-founders in that process?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Yeah, so I think it had come primarily from a few people that are in some Telegram groups and were watching certain influencers. I won't mention any names because it wouldn't be right to, but I think we'd become quite disillusioned by this, whole idea of, certain influencers shilling projects, and, we're starting to have that realization that there are a lot of kind of bad actors in the space that were taking money for videos, sucking their audience into it, and, getting them to buy into projects that, were a complete load of rubbish, basically. And of course, being fairly naive, you get caught up in these things, you get your fingers burnt. And I remember, some people in one of these groups that there was a few kind of grumblings about some of this stuff going on, and of course, as you do, one or other starts to DM and say, oh, what do you think about this? I thought it was rubbish, and oh god, I'm so pleased you contacted me. I've been thinking the same thing. I know there's others. Let's form a group and we can all moan about it together, which is pretty much what happened. So we kind of formed this little group of disgruntled crypto investors that were probably just a bit pissed off about losing some money off of a couple of shills from certain influencers. And one of the guys lives in, this is now one of my co-founders, there's 3 co-founders in Cryptopia. He lives up in Maine in the States. And he messaged me one day and said, I've been having to think about an idea, let me give you a call. So it's the first time I'd spoken to him, and he said, I think we should start a YouTube channel. And I was like, right, okay, well, I've never given that any consideration at all. I don't really see that as being like a forte for me, like presenting, YouTube videos, or really have enough experience in crypto to be able to, impart any kind of wisdom on anyone else. I mean, I'm sitting here having made loads of losses recently. I'm not sure I should be telling anyone else how to do it. But one of the other guys we've been chatting to, so this is Michael that lives in Maine. And then the other co-founder that when we got together later on, a guy called John Hatch, who lives in Guatemala. And he'd always been very big extrovert. He'd always send video messages of where he was. He lives in the jungle, like right in the middle of the jungle. And we'll come on to talk about that with the charity stuff later on. So it's a really remote place, and it's a very unique backdrop. It's absolutely beautiful, stunning. I actually went to visit him last year and saw it for myself, and we were always fascinated by that. And he was always very willing to sort of share his sort of personal, his personal life and his environment, whereas most people just hide behind avatars or screen names or what have you. He was always very open and kind of wanted people to know who he was. So Mike had said, well, we've got someone that can do this, right? John's the perfect candidate because he's quite happy talking about himself. He lives in a beautiful location. I mean that in the nicest possible way, obviously. He lives in a beautiful location. So, actually, if people were watching some videos, he would have something immediately that most other YouTubers don't have, which I think is important because, so many of them are just stuck behind screens with a microphone and a screen share. So we basically then strong-armed John into doing it. He wasn't that keen at the start. We said, look, mate, you've got the right personality for it. You've got the backdrop there. Let's just give it a go. Why don't we create something that we've said is missing in the space, and try and, bring projects to people that, we actually believe in. And, so it was very much a let's just suck it and see type of scenario. Like, we just wanted to give it a go. At that point, we had no expectations or ideas for a business or any of this stuff whatsoever. So we just gave it a go. And that was about 16 months ago when we first published the first video. So at the very start, I think it might have been actually towards the very end, like last few days of 2021, but really it was the start of 2022 when we did that. And yeah, really quickly we found that, John got into it. Like at the start, as you imagine, he was quite nervous about doing this new venture and being on camera and all of these things. But, if I compare the videos he did right to the start to where he is now, as you can imagine, they're completely different. But we sort of introduced it as being what we were hoping it would be, was, something a little bit different. What you see is what you get. Fast, informative videos. We didn't want to have any trading analysis, mainly because we didn't know how to do any of that stuff. And just kind of make it a bit more fun and a bit more, real and personal. So kind of that's what we did. So we started, to produce videos on stuff that we were looking at the time, mainly gaming and metaverse projects, because that was the big hype, wasn't it? Kind of coming into the end of 2021 and coming into 2022. So there was lots of options and lots of gaming and metaverse projects. So we were sort of focusing a bit on that, like you do. It was the hype at the time. And then one day we got approached by I think it was another influencer or another project that said, oh, well, if you're interested, we've been given an allocation in a private sale for a project called The Fabled, which is still in production at the moment. They haven't actually launched. But they said, if you want, you can offer this to, your community. By which point we built, a small Telegram community, and, we had some people that were kind of engaging in that. It's very small, we're talking like a couple of hundred people at that stage. It was sort of, friends, family, and, their contacts. It was just building, organically. And so we said, yeah, we'll give it a go. So we got this, $5,000 allocation, and we got set up with this platform called Presale, who we've been using subsequently for all of our raises as well, which is like an investment management platform, basically, that allows people to invest, and then we can manage all the token distribution, etc. as well. But this is all brand new to us, and we thought, we'll give it a go. And yeah, we put that live into the Telegram group, backed it up with a video, and we were surprised, like, within a half an hour or so, all the allocations are gone. And we said, like, can have up to $100 each or whatever, and it got snapped up really quickly. We're like, okay, well, and we charged a fee, so we charged a 10% fee on that. We're like, okay, well, that's, we've actually managed to make some money out of doing this now. That's an interesting concept. Never thought that would happen this quickly. Right, well, maybe we can try that with some other projects, right? So, we went to speak to some other projects, and at that time it was quite difficult to get allocations because there were so many big VCs in the space, and there was still at that point, it was a tail end of it, but it was still the end of the bull market. There was lots of money floating about, and projects were only really wanting to work with big VCs that they could, put on the cap table and say, yeah, we're working with, Downmaker or, Animoca Brands or whoever it was. So we had to sort of, really work the angle to say, look, we'll give you free video coverage, we'll do some more marketing for you, and sort of almost like beg to raise funds for for these projects. But we managed to start getting some allocations, and and that kind of just snowballed from there, really. So at the start it was only very small. We were doing $10,000, $15,000, but before long that community was growing. People were hearing about the fact that they could get into these allocations, because we weren't charging anything apart from the fee at the time. So there was you didn't have to lock up any tokens, you didn't have to buy any NFTs. It was sort of free access to everyone, which was quite rare, and still is quite rare, really, in the VC space. And yeah, it really started to snowball very quickly. And we went from doing $5,000 raises at the start to $50,000, probably within the space of a month or 6 weeks. And so then it was
actually quite good.
Yeah, I think so. I don't have anything about.
It grows at the same time, right? I think, like you mentioned, what projects ask is especially in that time, is what do you bring to the table? It's like the value add that's very important. Yeah. And once you get larger allocations, you can accommodate probably more people of your community, which grows subsequently. I think that's that goes hand in hand, right?
How big is your community, Richie?
Oh, sorry.
That's
okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah. So now So I'm just trying to think across all the platforms really. So we've probably got, I would say, maybe 3,000 to 4,000 actively engaged people in our community, and that now, you know, so we've, you know, in the last 16 months or so, you know, it's completely transformed. I mean, this is a fully fledged business. You know, we have people working for us. It's grown at just a phenomenal exponential rate that even when I stop to think about it for a moment, which is very rare that I have the opportunity to do so, I just cannot believe how quickly it's grown. Now, don't get me wrong, we've worked really, really hard at it. But, you know, we've managed to do this during a bear market as well, which, you know, I think is something that myself and the other guys are really proud of as well.
But you guys got a lot of followers on YouTube. Like your YouTube's really, really cool. Like 27,000 followers or something. And your videos get
that's
like
grown,
a shit ton of views. Yeah, it's really cool. I watched a couple of videos last week. Yeah,
that's where Cryptopia got its start on YouTube. Then you basically just built a YouTube video, started up, and then evolved into the VC business. Am I understanding correctly?
Absolutely, yeah, exactly that. So it was YouTube first, and then that opened up the doors because, you know, you start to get noticed by, you know, projects that may be interested in working with you to promote themselves in one way, shape, or form, and then, you know, having the Telegram community, you know, associated with that. So we were, trying to drive people towards that Telegram group, you know, through the YouTube videos, you know, to create a community, which originally wasn't intended for anything else other than for the sake of a community. There wasn't some ulterior motive or business idea at that point. That was a very organic growth and just sort of came out of, you know, a stroke of luck really, because we had no idea at that stage really about how fundraising worked in crypto startups, and so that was a steep learning curve. But yeah, it was all started from YouTube. Yeah.
So all right, so you had a steep learning curve. Can you kind of dumb down the VC business in crypto a little bit for our audience? You know, your average crypto dad. Can you kind of explain it a little deeper? Just maybe just dumb it down a little bit. Exactly what you're doing, what the seed and private investment means, and how people can get in with you with that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I think with VCs in the Web3 and crypto space, you tend to have two different types. So the first one is VCs that, you know, are buying for their own fund, right? So it's like almost like a kind of hedge fund, if you will, but they're buying because that's what they do. So it's a particular fund that's buying investments for themselves. So that's number one. We're not that. Number two is the more community-focused VCs or DAOs, some people like to call them, where effectively the easiest way to describe it to a normal crypto DAO would be it's fundraising, a crowd fundraising. So in order to get into seed rounds or private rounds, and I'll come on to talk a little bit more about what the difference is between those two things in a second. But in order to get into good quality projects in those rounds where you're buying tokens at a lower price than you would do the public price, and that's the advantage, right, is you're able to buy in a better price. There's going to be minimum amounts that projects will ask you to invest, and most normal people can't afford $50,000 or $100,000 to get into those projects. So what we do is we will buy that ticket on behalf of a community, and then go to them and say, right, we've got a $100,000 allocation. I'm just giving arbitrary numbers, but $100,000 allocation. Now we can split this down into smaller amounts, so that the average Joe Bloggs now has the opportunity to get into projects that previously only whale investors or large VCs would have been able to buy into. So I think for me the big plus of it is it's kind of more true decentralization, rather than all these tokens or projects being funded by 3 or 4 massive VCs who then kind of completely control the movement of the chart in the way that they decide they're going to sell their tokens or not, as the case may be. Now you've got a whole spread of investors, so rather than having 3 or 4, you might have 300 or 400 different investors in a seed round or a private round, and that's great because then you've got like an army of people that is getting behind that project as well. It's helping to market it. They're talking to their friends about it. They're getting excited about it. So that I think is a really big plus. And for me personally, I think that's the way that crypto fundraising is moving towards far more now than in the past. And then so the difference between a seed and the private round really is primarily the token price that you might be able to buy in at. So the seed round is generally the first round, so it's the earliest round, and that the seed funding is just about getting funds into that business in order for them to continue their roadmap. Yeah, so to pay for salaries and development work and anything else that they decide they need in order to progress their roadmap. So let's give an example. Let's say that if you're buying a seed round, it might be 1 cent is a token price, and then you would have a vesting period. So a vesting period is how long those tokens are locked up for and how regularly you get them. So with the seed round, that tends to be the longest vesting period, right? So because it's the lowest token price, what they projects don't want is to unlock all those too quickly, and then people could start dumping those tokens and completely wreck a chart. So let's say it's 1 cent, and then for good projects you may have a small amount that you can sell at the launch at token generation event, TG as it's known, let's say 5%, and then the rest of those tokens might be locked up for the next 3 months or 6 months. It's called a cliff, right? So you don't get any tokens for that amount of time, and then all of the rest of the tokens vested over a set period of time, so 18 months or 24 months would be quite typical in a seed round. Then you move into private, and you might say, well, the token price then is 2 cents, so that's double the price of the seed round. But now you're getting 10% that you can sell at your at the launch, and the tokens are only locked up for 2 months, and then it's vesting over 12 months rather than 18 or 24. So it starts to to move up in terms of the price, but then the vesting period tends to be a little bit shorter. And then typically you may have another funding round, like a community round, before you get to a public round or a launchpad IDO round, which is kind of basically at the point that project is being launched. So yeah, we're tending to raise in seed and private. That's generally where we are. We're not a launchpad that buys in at the kind of IDO stage. We're early stage investment VC.
Okay. And Richie, tell me, how does Cryptopia vet the project? So there's a lot out there. So how do you guys basically meet up, and what is your criteria for being that we want to get involved in this project?
Yeah, really good question, and a really important one as well. So we have a set starting criteria that we will look for projects. So we look very closely at the team behind it. I think that's one of, if not one of the most important things. The aspects are looking at their background. Is it just some kids that have come out of university and like the idea of, starting a fintech or, a martech or whatever, or do these people actually have a background in what they're trying to do? That's important. Conversation, looking, into the eyes of the people that are running the project, for me is really important. I've worked in sales all my life, and I'd like to think I can get the measure of people pretty quickly as well. Don't always get it 100% right, but that's a really important step for me as well. Tokenomics is also very important. So like we were talking about a moment ago with the seed and private and all the different rounds. So looking carefully at who has access to what tokens at what point, during the vesting schedule, how much do the team have? Are there any rounds that you look at and think, they potentially might be able to dump on, later investors or, some other potentially problematic elements that need to be considered. So we look very carefully at the tokenomics, and we will often give, advice or request that certain aspects are changed in tokenomics. And I think a lot of projects are quite open to that if you're doing it for the right reasons. We also look very carefully at, the marketing plans as well. So how is this, this product going to be taken to market? What's the plan? How are you going to get that adoption? Where's the buy pressure going to come from? That's another important aspect. And of course, the utility of the project, incredibly important. We never get involved in any, what you would call meme coins or coins that don't have any utility. For me, that's completely pointless. We want to invest in really serious projects. There's obviously a massive AI boom at the moment, as I'm sure you guys will be very, very aware of. We're very fortunate to have a partnership with Singularity Net, so we're raising funds for some of their spin-off projects at the moment. We've been very successful with that. Singularity Net is, for me, one of the best teams in the space. Incredibly professional. What they're doing is absolutely amazing in terms of AI. And there's huge demand for what they're doing in the investment space as well. So that's like a perfect storm for me. It's like, brilliant team, tried and tested, everyone knows them, very professional. What the technology they're bringing to the table is superb as well. This is genuinely going to be a massive thing moving forward in AI, and how that affects all of us in the years to come. So that for me is like the perfect type of a partnership where that everything is set up really well, and of course doesn't guarantee that everything's going to perform as exactly how you would like it, but it really reduces the risk right down. So it's a great question, Sean, really important one. We have a strict vetting procedure, I think is the best way to summarize it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to grab back a little bit to what you said about tokenomics. You mentioned that in the question before about seed rounds and private rounds. And I've done a couple of investments myself as well in seed and private. And based on the price difference, investing difference, there's does it happen for you that if you have access to both rounds, that you decide to take the private round at a higher price and shorter vesting, rather than taking the seed round at a lower price and longer vesting?
Yeah, another really good question. The answer is yes, we have done that in the past. It would depend on the setup of the project and how the tokenomics are presented to us. So yeah, and we may even take some and some. So we might decide that we'll offer a sale in the seed round and the private round, and then you've got the option to have a mixture of both, so that you're covering two eventualities there. So some of our investors in the community would like to do that. So recently we raised funds for a Singularity Net spin-off called Hypercycle, and actually we did 3 sale rounds there. So we had the seed round at 2 different prices, and then we also had the private round as well. So it kind of gave everyone choices in what they wanted to do and the vesting they wanted to take as well. So yeah, we try and put those decisions in the hands of the community somewhat. So we'll often run polls and voting. We don't really call it a DAO because it's not a DAO in the real sense, but we'll put it to the vote in terms of, right, here are the options, guys. What do you want? And we'll go with the majority decision. Not always. Sometimes we'll just make a decision and offer it, but more often than not, we like to try and involve the community in that decision.
That's cool, like a soft DAO.
A soft DAO, yeah.
Soft DAO.
Well, I think it's a phrase that's used very often, isn't it? Oh, we're a DAO, we do this. It's like, well, actually, to be a true DAO, I think is quite an unusual thing, and we couldn't call it that because we are often just making decisions, but we do sometimes offer the vote to the community. So it's just being honest about that, really.
Yeah, I think that's good. Very good. And what are some of your biggest wins for in your VC experience from an investment point of view? Just
do you mean
give us some of the 100x stories we need.
It's difficult. I mean, in the early stages, some of the projects didn't perform particularly well because we were raising funds right at the start, just as we were coming into a bear market. So, some of those early the gaming projects that we did right at the start there. I mean, this seems like a million years ago now, but it was only sort of 16 months or so ago. It didn't perform particularly well, and you have to look at that, and whilst it's not your fault because it's largely market driven. You have to think about your reputation as a VC, and it's like we want to make sure we're bringing the best quality projects. So we had to really reassess things at that point. We had a phase of a few months where we just didn't really raise any funds at all, primarily because there wasn't any appetite in the market, because a lot of people had got wrecked, and it wasn't just us, right? This was across the whole board there. Pretty much every project that was launching during that kind of probably March, April time from 2022 all the way through the summer was just performing dreadfully. So we were speaking to some projects, and and they were saying that we want to delay launch, and we're like, we totally support that. Like we keep on building. You've funded, carry on building, and there's still some projects now that haven't launched that we were raising funds for around that time, and we've been fully supportive of that. And actually, you can see what they're building now. When the time is right, it will be should be a really good launch in terms of the quality of the workmanship and everything else. So that was quite a difficult time, I suppose. But then in terms of the the plus side, which is more your question, Mike, I think I would say it's getting what I would class as tier 1 projects and starting to access those types of projects and getting raises. So we did a private sale for Miria, which is a big gaming project, which I'm sure you might be aware of. It's tipped to be a rival to Gala, so we were able to offer some of the gaming nodes for that's just about to launch, I think, as well, to the community. That nice. I think was one of the first projects that sort of felt like it had propelled us forward a little bit, and we were able to raise a really good amount of money from that as well, and that started to open up some more partnerships for us as well. It's like anything, it just needs that bit of momentum to start building, and then you start to get noticed, and it helps you then to to get in with other larger projects. But I think in terms of singularly the most the thing that I'm most pleased with is this recent partnership with SingularityNet, because I've been a huge fan of their project for such a long time, and to build that relationship and be able to have first refusal in some of their sales rounds there is great for us and the community, and I think we hopefully offer them a lot in return in terms of not just the funds being raised, but also the community support that we're offering as well. So I would say, probably that's definitely the highlight for me so far.
That's great. So Richie, can you tell us a little bit about what makes Cryptopia different from other VC groups, and also how our audience can get involved?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think from what makes us different standpoint, a lot of VCs, we don't have a token. That's the first thing I think that makes us stand out from a lot of launchpad / VCs that require you to buy tokens in order to access allocations for raises. It's not that we don't have a mechanic like that, we do, but it's NFT based. But primarily people are asking for for tokens to be bought. And of course, going back to that same period of time we mentioned a moment ago, a lot of people were buying huge large amounts of tokens to get these tiers and allocations, and then everything completely crashed, and like, oh god, I've just wasted $10,000 on, and I was only getting like a $250 allocation. So that's the other thing also, is that we generally offer much higher allocations than most other VCs as well. So we have more limited availability, but offer people higher allocations. So I don't know whether you guys are familiar with a lot of launch pads and the way that they work, but if you go to a Meta V pad or an AI pad or any of these launch pads, you tend to have to spend a lot of money at the time in buying the tokens and staking them to get a really tiny allocation in projects. It might only be like $100 or $150. At our top tier, which is you have to hold an NFT for that, but you can buy up to $10,000 in projects, and because we limit it so much, so that is only a max supply of 150 NFTs, very limited. We could say, oh, it's 5,000 and be greedy and take all the money for it, but the idea is that we limit that, and then that means that we can guarantee those allocations on the most part, unless it's a project that is very small allocations. But generally speaking, I can't remember a time when we haven't been able to offer that guaranteed allocation to our elite members. And then even in the next tiers down for Cryptopia, you can still buy $750 worth of allocation. Now that becomes first come first serve, so you have to be sort of quick on the trigger there. But again, it's much higher than you would find in I think most other VCs. In fact, I haven't encountered another VC that's offered those levels of allocations for the sort of money that we're asking for our NFTs. So I think that's one of the main distinctions that we've made. And I think finally, we pride ourselves on being a really professional outfit, and that's one thing that, as I said, I come from a corporate background. When you come into this crazy space, one thing I have found, which has been to my distaste, is that there's a lot of unprofessional, behaviour that goes on, and some people just don't seem to understand how I think that business should be done. And that is that you're offering a service, you need to offer, good customer service, be responsive, make sure you're looking after your community and build like a bit of a family vibe. I know that sounds a bit cliched. I don't like to use it very much, but that genuinely is the kind of feel that we're looking for. And I think that, the feedback that we get tells us that we're on the right path there. So we have lots of community moderators that have been handpicked from our community that are now working for Cryptopia, people that we know, and we've seen how they interact, seen how genuine they are, and then we've asked them to come on board into the team. So we know the people that are helping us and working for us, and we know that they're going to help us create the vibe that we want in the community. So there's no there's no bad atmosphere. There's very little FUD that goes on in our community, which is a scourge on crypto. As soon as anything goes wrong, people start to moan and complain about it. We try and create a positive atmosphere. So yeah, they're the things that I think will differentiate us.
That's great. So how do people get in? How can our audience get involved with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, so you can join so everything really is done from Discord now. We recently migrated everything to Discord because it's just, I know some people hate it, but it is what it is. It's much easier for us to manage everything there through all the different channels and NFT gating, etc. So you can join the Cryptopia Discord. It's completely free to do that. You can join and see all of our kind of publicly available channels. So you'll see all the previous projects that we've raised funds for. You'll see the general chat, and you can get in there and talk to some of our team and some other people there as well. We also have, so I'll go through the different tiers of access, where there are 3 of those that you can pay for to get different benefits. So the first one is our Patreon, so which is more associated with our YouTube channel. So there's a Patreon membership, which is $20 a month, so it's very tiny. So you get all of our buy and sell alerts, which is done through John, who does our YouTube channel. So he's often out gem hunting and looking for good investments. And obviously none of that is financial advice in any way, shape or form, but he just tells people what he's doing. And of course, if they want to look into that and decide they're going to invest, then that's entirely up to them. You know, when he's selling, we do AMAs every Sunday as well. So we're just talking about the general crypto space. People can ask questions about what's going on. John will share some of the projects that he's been looking at. So that's a really good starter tier for people to get a little flavor of Cryptopia. And we actually also offer allocations for private sales for those members as well. So we offer up to $250 to buy into the the seed or private sales that we offer. So that's like a very low cost taster of what Cryptopia is about. And then, for those that want to put a bit more money into opportunities, we then have our Karma NFT collection. Now, I don't want to cross over into the charity question, because I think that's going to come a little bit later on. So I'll try and stay a little bit focused. But the Karma NFT gives a $750 allocation, but also has a lot of other utility, part of which is charity based, which we'll come on to. And also we have I'm going to use the word DAO again now, but a DAO governed investment fund as well. So $100 from each of the mints, it's a $400 mint, goes into an investment fund, which is run by the community. So basically they tell us, so every time we mint 50 NFTs, we take the chunk out of it and say, right, we've now got whatever the money is, where do you want to spend it? And we give some options. And that's what we've been doing, and we've been building up a nice fund there. So we've got several good quality assets, I think, and we've been building that in a bear market as well, which means I think the upside potential is really great. So that's like option 2. So the higher allocation, but some other nice utility as well. And then our top tier is our elite NFT membership. The pricing of that is varying, so it actually increases after every 10 mints. So it started at $2,000. I think we're at 3,600 at the moment. It's about 100 NFTs that have been minted out of the 150 total supply, and that gives you, as I mentioned before, that $10,000 allocation, which for a lot of people is very valuable, right? So they can buy in up to that amount in projects, and and hopefully make some really good gains, and some people really have as well, and good long-term holds, but also potential to get that investment out, or your initial investment out quite early at TGE in many cases, but just to get access to some of these opportunities at that type of level, like when you compare that to other projects that might be offering you $100 allocation for the same price access, do you know what I mean? So they're the 3 tiers. But if people don't want to spend any money, just come and have a look at the Discord and get a feel for how we run things. I would definitely encourage anyone that's interested, any crypto dads or otherwise out there, just to have a little look about and come and ask us some questions. We're happy to help.
Richie, so as I stand corrected, right, it's cost $3,600 to buy the elite NFT, right? So we can buy it, and then we get $10,000 allocation, and then those in your group who did not get allocation, we can sell it at a 10% premium in fragments to them. No, eh?
Is that
I'm just seeing I'm like, come on now.
I had to think that for a moment. Yeah,
it's part of our charity.
Yeah. If it's all going to charity, there's no problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Ryan, can we call you Charity from now on?
Yeah, sure. That's my stage name.
On to a serious question, Richie. Tell me the legal aspects to a VC group. All right. So, is it pooling? Is it legal? Is VC groups legal? How do you guys? You guys are a business. Where you guys registered from that perspective, and how do you how do you put this together to obviously run as a corporate company?
Yeah, it's a good question, an interesting one, because there are some grey areas with this stuff. I mean, the first question is what we're doing legal? Absolutely, there's okay. No problems with that whatsoever. The idea of offering investment opportunities but pooling the funds in order to do that, totally legal in pretty much every jurisdiction in the world, as far as I'm aware. But one big advantage that we have is that because we work, I think I mentioned earlier on, but we work with Presale, which are our fundraising platform provider. They are a very, very serious team, very well funded. The platform they're building and the team they have there is excellent. And They have 3 people working in their compliance team full time. So they're actually at the moment going through a process, and they're working with some of the best Web3 lawyers in the space to work through all of the new compliance stuff that's going to be required. So there's obviously, as you would imagine, a lot of complexity and nuance to some of this stuff. But the fantastic thing about it, well, there's some. Go back a stage. There's some legislation coming into I think most areas in the world, but in Europe, I can't remember the name of it. It'll come back to me in a moment. But about the ways that some of these things have to be done, and a large part of it is anti-money laundering regulations, and generally fighting financial crime. And so there is regulations around that. So KYC is something which we insist on all of our investors going through, and that's primarily to make sure that we're playing our part to fight financial crime. So if anyone is on government watch list of any sort, clearly they're going to fail that, and we won't allow them to invest. And we certainly don't want to be involved in any way in enabling people to launder money through our business. But the great thing, going back to pre-sale with what those guys are doing, is that they're actually it's looking like that there will be some kind of a brokerage license required in order to do what we do going forward. It isn't required right now, but it's likely that it will do probably by this time next year, maybe even before that time. What they're looking to do is obtain a license on behalf of their clients. So basically they will have the license, and then all of their clients will, as long as they are abiding by the rules which pre-sale set out, which we fully intend to and are already doing so and working with them in helping them to get to this stage, will mean that we are fully compliant in every way, shape or form. That is really important to us. We don't want to be doing anything which is not fully compliant. I think whether it's legal is one thing, whether it's fully compliant are the kind of two different things, really. So is the concept of raising funds in the way that we do legal? Yes. Is there some nuance on the compliance that needs to be worked out? Then yes, but it's partly because it's a very grey area and it varies from one country to another. So what you need to try and have is this sort of standard, which I think is obviously where regulation is a good thing, isn't it? Because you have a clear view of what it is that you need to do, and you can just say, right, we're just going to get on and do that now. So KYC is definitely one of those. It's morally the right thing to do, but it's also a legal requirement. Our business is based in the British Virgin Isles. They're very clear about what it is that we need to do in terms of fighting or helping to combat financial crime, and we are putting all of those steps in, or have put all of those steps in place, largely through the introduction of KYC. Pre-sale provide that for us, so it's all done through the same platform. So from our investors' perspective, it's really easy. They're using the same platform to invest, do their KYC, manage all of their investments, and we can very clearly see if someone has completed KYC, and we could, basically at the start of any sale, we will tick a box that says this sale must be KYC approved people only, and if you're not KYC approved, you can't put your money in. It's as simple as that. Okay. So British Virgin Isle base is where we are. We're compliant with all of their regulations, but there will be more to come, and we need to make sure that we're at the cutting edge of that. And that's why one of the big reasons why we continue to work with pre-sale is because they are right at the forefront of that. So I feel like as an organisation and a VC, we're probably a lot further ahead than some with this stuff, that they probably aren't taking it as seriously as they should do. But as much for me, it's a moral obligation, as well as a legal or a compliance one.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking at the rates that these banks are falling over, I think the anti-money laundering is important, because the criminals need to find alternatives now, right?
Yeah.
The banks are failing, so they...
Yeah, shit. Now what?
I don't think that, really... Okay, look, it might be this sort of, people don't like this idea of, it not being fully decentralized, all this stuff. It's like, we just have to be realistic about some of this stuff, right? It's not that we're saying that we really want everyone to go through this, but, we have to understand if it helps, to protect against crime, which could be, fueling and funding all sorts of horrendous stuff in the world, then it's the right thing to do, Yeah. It's not like, and none of that information gets shared with us. We're not going through a whole list of people's personal details. Oh God, who's this? And looking into their, we don't get any of that information. Like, it's either have they failed or have they passed. That's literally it. None of that information is passed on to any of the projects that we work with. So there isn't this big conspiracy theory like some people would make out. Oh God, you're going through all my information. It's like, no, we just need to know whether you're a criminal or not.
Yeah. A mastermind.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you manage inside your group? You're dealing with 3,000 plus people, right? How do you manage failure of a project? And not all projects are equal. Some of them just go to the dumpster. So how do you? You've got moderators, as you mentioned, but there's still you guys have chosen this project. You've told them about it. Yes, it's my obligation to do my own research and to get into that, but it still hurts. How do you manage that?
Good question. So I think one of the first things I would say, and something we're really proud of, we've never had a project rug pull on us, which I think is an amazing feat considering how many rug pulls there have been out there, particularly over the last couple of years. So that's kind of number one. But in terms of the failure, look, we've had some projects mainly in the early days, as I explained earlier on, when we were on the turn of the market and things really did fall off the edge of a cliff, that I think to be honest, most people were just very accepting of what it was and understood the reasons for it. It wasn't necessarily that the project that we had selected had been badly managed or was a bad team or bad tokenomics. It was just that everything had crashed. There were no apart from the odd meme coin here and there that would pump and dump, there was no projects really that were performing well at all. So it's not like you would look at it and say everything else is pumping and your project that you've presented to us has gone to shit. Literally everything there was in the same position. So I think that helped a lot, that people understood that. And of course, that we're very clear about, the risks involved in crypto investing as well. We don't try and hide any of that stuff. We're very open to, to criticism. We invite criticism on projects as well before offering the sale. So if people have any concerns about any aspect of it, we'll try and answer that. We do AMAs with the project usually before we offer the sale as well. So it gives the community the chance to ask their questions. So I think if you do all of that stuff and, you've done your due diligence, which we always do, and we do it to a high standard, I make sure of that. If a project fails, we just have to accept that that's the way things go. And I think our community on the whole, 99% of the time, are totally cool with that. So we're fortunate that we've got, because we've fostered that type of environment. I think, we have mature investors that don't get silly and start, pointing fingers and trying to play the blame game, because they understand the reasons for it. So honestly, we haven't really had to manage too much of that. Thank God. It's been a fairly, kind of, I wouldn't say easy ride, but it's been a fairly steady one as far as managing that kind of FUD and concerns.
It sounds like a pretty diligent process, and I think your AMA is key, because often when an opportunity arises, you have you have a million people asking the same questions. Just get them in a room, ask the questions, get them to ask questions, give some answers, and kind of get a happy feel, or a feel that maybe this is not the project we should go into. So I think that's a secret, which I think perhaps other clubs are failing at the moment with that. So, or they can add it to make them a little bit more stronger in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think, particularly if you're in a bull market or the start of a bull market and, there is appetite from investors to spend money, they've made some money on trades or whatever else, it's very tempting just to say, well, let's just pick the first project that comes along because people are, gagging to chuck money at it. But that doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. And it's not good for reputation. It's definitely not good for longevity. And we're here to stay. Like this, for us, is the beginning of what I hope is going to be a very long journey. So we need to make sure that the infrastructure is right, the reputation is managed in the right way, and all of the things that we've spoken about with the community. But there's obviously always going to be people out there that just want to take the money and don't really care about anything else. But we definitely aren't that organisation.
That's great. So if we can jump back into the charity aspect of your project, you briefly mentioned the Karma NFT. Can you give us the whole rundown on what that is and explain a little deeper for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cryptopia as an organisation has been, right from the outset, has been doing some charity work. So as I mentioned, John Hatch, one of the co-founders, lives in Guatemala. There's a lot of poverty there. So I mentioned I went to visit last year, saw it for myself. People are earning like $5 a day for doing 12 hours, like cutting grass or whatever it is they're doing. And the medical facilities over there are very, very poor, particularly in the more remote areas. So where John lives, there's about 12,000 indigenous Mayan people that live about an hour from where he is. And they would have to travel 3 hours by car to get to the nearest medical facility where there would be any kind of sterile environment or whatever else. So for most people, they just don't do it because it would cost them a lot of money to get there as well. And most people just don't have anything. So, there are there are women giving birth to children on, kind of dirt floors with a rug put down. The infant mortality rate is about to like 25-30%. It's absolutely shocking. So there's all this stuff going on there, and we wanted to try and help in some way. As we started to make a little bit of money from our business, we did a few different projects, fairly small to start with. So we helped to re-roof the local school, which is basically like a kind of corrugated iron roof that was completely falling apart. So we did that. And of course, the labour over there is quite cheap, so you can actually get quite a lot of stuff done for not too much money, which is a real big plus. So after you bought the materials, the labour is really cheap, and it's great because all the local people can get involved, and you can help, pay them some money for doing the job. So we did that. We re-gravelled an area of the school that was just basically a mud pit. What else have we done? Then we also bought a plot of land, which is just adjacent to the school there in this small village. And there was always this idea of like, we want to try and do something, like build some kind of medical facility there. But, obviously that's quite a significant undertaking. But, we started to think more about this and said, right, okay, well, why don't we try and integrate this into what we're doing with blockchain in some way. So we created this idea of a Karma NFT collection. So it's a not-for-profit NFT collection where the majority of the money that we take from that, we're personally not taking any profit from it whatsoever, but it's the revenue is split in a few ways, which I'll explain. But the majority goes directly from the mint into the building of a medical facility. So we started the minting of the Karma NFTs about October last year. We've minted 200 so far out of a collection of 1,000. So we've still got quite a long way to go with those, but it's picking up pace a lot over the last couple of months, which is great because we've built in some extra utility, which is now making it attractive. But unlike a lot of these projects, they're like, when we mint out our 1,000, we're going to start building this project. Literally, the moment that we had money coming in from the first mints, it was being sent straight down to John in Guatemala because he's on site, and also he has a building background, which makes a massive difference. He was able to organize and oversee a lot of this stuff, which is great. And if people want to go and check out our YouTube channel, Cryptopia, just put it into YouTube, you'll find it straight away. We've done several update videos now, so we've got all the foundations in, the beginnings of the wall are now into the clinic as well, so you can see for yourself that the money is being spent on the clinic, which is something that we're immensely proud of, and all the community members that have purchased a Karma NFT should be proud of that as well. So we hope, I think realistically, within the next 6 months, certainly by the end of this year, that clinic will be complete. If we haven't raised the funds, I think we will fund it ourselves just to get it done and up and erected and underway as soon as possible. And that is going to make such a massive difference to that community. So there's going to be 12,000 people that will be able to access it within less than an hour's walk, not a car journey, but they'll be able to walk there. It'll be a clean, sterile environment, which is just something they do not have at all at the moment. It could be used as sort of a community meeting centre as well, another thing that they don't have right now. We've been speaking to some Doctors Without Borders that are going to come over and do some clinics, so sort of paediatric clinics. Eye clinics are a big thing over there as well. A lot of people, are going blind because they don't have very simple, remedies or treatments to certain ailments. There's diabetes levels are through the roof because Coke is, 10 times cheaper than buying, distilled, bottled water. It's just, all this stuff is going on. So having that sort of central point where, we can get, women can give birth in a sterile environment. To us, that just seems like a completely normal standard thing, but it's not there. Yeah. So that's been a really big undertaking for us. And, if anyone wants to get involved in that, please check out our website, cryptopia-group.com, and you can find all the information on the Karma NFT. So there is some other utility built in that I mentioned earlier on, but purely from the charity aspect, that's what we've been doing there. So it started off as just something that we wanted to help out in the community, but now our community have got behind that, and we've been able to facilitate something that genuinely is going to make a massive difference. So very proud of it.
That's great. That's really great. Why did you choose an NFT as the foundation for that project?
Yeah, good question. I think we were just sort of making it up as we went along, to be honest. We thought, what can we do here? And I think because you can kind of build in lots of different utilities, can't you, with NFTs? You can with tokens as well, but with NFTs, it sort of felt like it was easier to build this utility and probably build on that utility further down the line, which is what we've done. So where it started and what the utility is now look quite different because we've tweaked and changed that as we've gone along in order to make it more attractive to sell more of the NFTs. So we built in the allocation into the private sales and seed sales. We increased the amount that was going into this investment fund fund, which has been, something that I know a lot of people have been very keen on. So we didn't just want to make it, a charity only project, because, some people like to invest in charity, others don't. But if you can invest in an NFT that gives you great utility from an investment standpoint, and you're doing a good thing for the world at the same time, well, that then starts to become a different matter, and I think it appeals to a lot more people rather than it just being pure 100% charity. So, but the actual mechanism of it, Brian, I think was just sort of like, just seemed like the best idea at the time.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of the videos on the YouTube, and it resonated quite well with me. I'm sorry. And
Mike, did you just say the YouTube? Did you just say the YouTube?
Sorry, on the
It was very European of you. Portuguese friend.
Did I say the YouTube?
I've watched this on the YouTube.
On the fuck, did I? I've seen a snippet of myself as well, and I was quite surprised. What did I just say there? But fuck you, Sean. I have a good excuse because. But in all seriousness, Richie, it resonated quite well with me. I have a 4-month old kid. I got 4 in total, so I got a young boy now, and he was in the hospital when he was like 6 weeks old. Nothing too serious, but when I'm watching the video this afternoon, we take a lot of stuff for granted, right? With the facilities that we have, and I was quite surprised that I think John mentioned that the native or indigenous people don't name their kid for the first 30 days due to the high mortality rate. Is that blew my mind? That's insane.
Yeah, exactly that. And for them, it's just a standard thing. It's the facilities and the way that they live there is very very basic. And I don't think I would have I wouldn't have believed it, but it's very hard to compute this stuff unless you've actually seen it yourself. And I went over to visit for a while and I saw it, and I guess that's probably when you actually see that stuff for yourself, it kind of gives you that motivation to want to try and do as much as you can for these people, even though it's, a long way away from where I live, having seen that firsthand. But yeah, I mean, imagine having a culture where people don't name their children for that amount of time because, so many of them are dying. It's shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think you can get a lot of people with the charity point of view. Could you elaborate a little bit on the new utilities that you've added for the people that want to do like the charity and grab a little bit of utility as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I touched on some of it already, but I think that, one of the main reasons why people are buying the Karma at the moment is to get involved in the sales, because it gives them that $750 allocation, which again I think it's really good value. Like if you're buying something that's more than $150 ish, I think I just haven't checked. I think it's between 140 and 50 going directly to the clinic. Then you're getting $100 going into the investment fund, and then you're also getting the allocation in the private and seed sales. That's really, really good value. Like you wouldn't get $750 allocations on spending $400 on something that was only for that, so to have all of that extra stuff in there as well, I think is great value. So that's probably number one. The investment fund, I think people, when it's not like that's matured at this point where we're paying out on that fund, but we, within the next 6 to 12 months, we absolutely will be, when we're starting to see some good returns. So that's kind of building in the background. So that will be a $1 million fund, I'm sure, in the next kind of year to 18 months if we play our cards right. That's the aim of it, is to grow from the initial $100,000 investment and try and 10x that, which I think is totally possible with a spread of assets across low, medium and high risk crypto and NFT projects. So that's the idea behind that. We also have different rarities as well, which we haven't revealed the utility behind those. So all the NFTs are actually animated NFTs, which have a jungle theme. So if you go onto OpenSea and have a look and just search for Karma NFT collection, you'll see them. So we spent a lot of time on the actual artwork as well. So it was reflective of what it was that we were actually actually trying to do. So the whole jungle theme there, and you've got jungle animals that are singing and dancing and on the animation. So that kind of all feeds in together. So there will be some extra utility for those different rarities as well. So we have a common, uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary, very kind of common with most NFT collections, and we're going to add and announce some extra utility for that as well. But yeah, those are the sort of the kind of summary utilities for the project.
That's nice. So, for say a viewer is contemplating on building their own NFT project. Two questions. Do you enjoy building the process of building an NFT project, and what is some of the advice you can give people to potentially either steer clear of or go head first?
Yeah, I would say that it's always a bigger undertaking than you first imagine it to be. It's probably the first thing. So you have to go and find a developer to start with. That's someone that you feel like you can trust and has an idea and a vision of what you're trying to achieve. So that can be, if, in our case, it was fairly complicated because we wanted these different rarities, we wanted animated artwork, we needed to get all the blockchain stuff, organized, and we didn't have any idea about any of this when we first, started this concept. None of us are developers, we don't come from that background, at all. So we had to try, find, the right person, to do that stuff, and because we work in the space that we do, there's a lot of people that might not necessarily be as as trustworthy as you might like. So you have to try and find the right person. Who can you trust? Is it a recommendation? So I think there's a lot of stuff to think about there. Particularly pricing it as well is a really difficult one because markets are changing all the time, like from one day to the next. So how do you price it? Do you decide you're going to price that in ETH, which has a fluctuating value, or do what we did because we mainly for the charity aspect, because we wanted to know exactly how much we could pass down to the charity. We decided to mint in stable coins. So that's another consideration. And then it's like, well, how the hell do we get people to know about this stuff and to start buying it? And that's another thing. It's like, if you've got a community already, great. You've got a YouTube channel like we did, that's great. But for someone just thinking, right, I'm going to start an NFT collection, like there's a lot of different things that you need to think about, not just from the development side of it, but then the whole go-to-market strategy, how you're going to market it. Have you set a budget aside for doing that stuff? Are you doing it in a bear market? And in which case you might end up throwing a load of money down the drain on marketing, or do you wait for for the start of a bull or some kind of an uptick in the market to launch and try and capture a bit of a wave of new investment? So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to consider. I wouldn't say that I enjoyed every aspect of it. There were times where it was quite stressful, and thinking, God, we're doing all of this stuff and we're not even making a penny out of it, but we sort of have to keep focusing on the reason we were doing it. There were a few moments I did question my sanity, but yeah, I think once you build a momentum up, like then you sort of look back and think, oh God, that was all worth it, and now things are going nicely and we're building the clinic and it's all going well. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to think about, and of course, like NFTs have flooded the market, haven't they, mainly in the kind of artwork space. So it's not like a new thing anymore. We had that huge demand for NFTs in the last bull run. Is that going to be the same in the next bull run? Who knows? It's become a saturated market. So I suppose if you're going to do something in the NFT space, you need to make it unique. I think that's what we've done. We've genuinely done something which I believe is unique. So you need to make sure it isn't just one of 1,000 other NFT collections that is a some kind of an ape or some other thing which has been done 100 times before.
Yeah. All right. So with regards to Cryptopia, right, where do you see Cryptopia going in the next period, 5 years time? Where do you see the vision for it? You guys obviously started from a YouTube channel, then you guys involved as a VC company, now you're doing NFTs, now you're doing charity work, you're partnering with some great companies. Where do you guys see yourself, and what potential alpha can a crypto dad take away from this to say, maybe I should be looking closer at this particular VC company?
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I think is probably the honest answer. I mean, honestly, if you'd asked me even 6 months ago, would you be in the position that you are now, where I quit my job that I got paid a decent amount of money every year, and I've completely abandoned that to come into this space full time, because I fully believe that it has just enormous potential, and it's kind of already being realized. So I think that the first thing that I've taken and realized, and this is something which I think other people can take away as well, is that if you set your mind to it and you've got an entrepreneurial kind of a spirit, and you can see opportunity and you understand a bit about how this space works, is there is an enormous opportunity opportunity for anyone, I believe, to make money, not just from an investment perspective, but to make a business in this space, because there are truly some amazing people. Like we spoke a bit about some of the bad actors and stuff, but there are also just like an incredibly talented bunch of people that work in this space, and that's been really, really inspirational for me. Where do I see Cryptopia in 5 years? I mean, such a difficult one to try and forecast, really. Even if we are able just to maintain what we're doing now, I would be happy, but of course that's not the plan. We want to keep on driving things forward. So if I had an ambition, I would like to be one of the biggest Web3 VCs in the space. I think that we can achieve that if we really put our minds to it, and if we continue with the kind of parameters of what that we've set, like I spoke about, good community, good service, being professional, doing all the things that we're doing at the moment, and don't lose sight of that. I think is really important, and I think that's totally achievable. I want to do more charity work, definitely, because that's something which I think is not just from a PR angle. It genuinely isn't about that. It's nice that we can do that, and I'm sure there is some PR benefit to it, but we do it because we want to, and that's really important. So if we can take some of our money that we're making and put it into that's brilliant. With the help of the community or without, depending on how that goes. And there's some other things that I'm sure we can get involved with as well. Like we're planning a fractionalized property ownership project as well. So we're going to be building some properties in Guatemala, which people will be able to buy NFT shared ownership in. So that's something that we're working on at the moment. So that's kind of a next phase of the project. So more into real estate, but of course blockchain connected. And we want to continue to be able to offer great projects to our community and continue to make sure that they are tier one, and that people are making some great returns on that as well. So, but 5 years it's in this space, it's like an eternity, isn't it? So This is all just kind of speculation, really. But I think it's all totally realistic, and I think like I say, I think anyone with the right mindset in this space that sees the potential can really change. It can be life changing. It has been for me in an incredibly short period of time, like I never would have even imagined. So I'm just a regular guy. Like I don't think there's anything special about me at all. I've just seen an opportunity and kind of seized it. So hopefully that might serve as a catalyst for someone thinking, how the hell am I going to get out of this job that I hate doing every day and break free of the the kind of golden handcuffs? Because a lot of people out there are thinking that they might have seen this crypto space and been like, God, there's so much stuff going on here, but then trying to envisage this sort of complete change and moving into that stuff full time is a big leap of faith for people to take, definitely. But I would encourage anyone to see and kind of investigate ways that they might be able to do that and liberate themselves. Come over to the dark side.
So speaking of that, do you have any advice for our audience on any ways you can think of that they can possibly get involved in crypto full time?
Well, I mean, just like we said at the very start of our conversation, is like, if you have an idea, just give it a try. Why not? Like someone said, why don't we try a YouTube channel? We did, and this is what happened. Literally, that's the story of Cryptopia. It started from zero, from nothing, from 3 guys that you didn't really know that much about what we were talking about at the time, and then you just go on this huge learning curve. And that's it. I think so. If you have an idea, speak to other people that you might find that have a similar mindset to you, and just have a chat over a beer or wherever it might be on a Zoom call, and just talk about the things you do and don't like about what you see in the crypto space. And is there a little gap that you might be able to fill, even if it's not something unique? It's kind of quite hard to find that sometimes, but could you do a YouTube channel that offers something a little bit different to what you've seen before? Is there another angle or a spin you might be able to take on something? Like what you guys are doing is great as well. Crypto, trying to find that little niche of something which kind of resonates with you but offers something different to the space, even if it isn't completely unique, and just give it a try. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, well, it didn't work out, we try something new, but if it does work, it could change your life. So that's what I would say. There's no secret sauce to it, it's just give it a go.
Yeah, for sure.
Brilliant advice. Hey guys, it's that time of the show where we are going into Dad's Got Jokes, and this is the part whereby we'll each basically tell a joke. The goal of this is not to smile, not to flinch, not to show some teeth. If you do, you've got to take 3 sips of your drink, whatever drink that might be. If it's a horrible joke, afterwards you'll meet me for disciplinary and you'll down a case of beer. No pressure, Ryan. Mike, yours is cognac. All right, cool. So we're going to start off with Mike. Give us your joke. Go for it.
Sure. What do you call a man with a knife in each leg? You call him a fucking ambulance.
That's good. I like that one.
You're just
Happy
thirsty.
to drink. Happy to drink. I'm just thirsty. All right, Richie, you're up.
Right, okay. Let's see if I can give some sort of decent delivery on this then. Why do dads take an extra pair of socks when they go golfing? In case they get a hole in one.
We're going to have to find you 2 sips of your drink. We said that on the last joke. That was my joke previously. You can't have it, Richie. Thank you. Thank you. Take your time.
There we go.
Ryan, we're leaving you for last.
All right.
It's my turn. All right. Are you guys wrestling fans? You guys can answer. Hey? No, not really.
Oh.
Wrestling fans? Yeah.
Not really.
You're American there. Okay, a little bit. Okay. How does The Rock pee? He Dwayne's his Johnson. I'll laugh at that one. Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Come now, guys. Come now. I'll even have a sip of that.
Nice.
Wow.
All right. No pressure, right? Ready?
All
for
right.
it.
Did you guys know that people eat way more bananas than gorillas? I mean, have you ever seen a person eating a gorilla?
That was caught off guard. I don't know. I'm loving my beard today.
Oh boy.
All right, we're gonna have to change our drinks to water from next week. Welcome back, Ryan. We missed you.
They were all totally dreadful, as you might expect. Well done, guys.
Exactly.
Oh, we aim to disappoint.
Yeah, right.
Mike, you're up.
Oh, yeah. So, Richie, what's your top tip to not get fucked in crypto?
Oh God.
Just you can pause and just remember that £30,000. Just focus. And now tell us.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say that the top tip for not getting fucked in crypto is just to take your time and understand just a bit about the project that you're investing your money in before you get caught up in any FOMO. And that's hard because we've all been the victim of that. And even now, still, I find myself doing things that break some of the rules that I've set for myself over the years. Normally it ends badly, and I remind myself of why that is. But just take a little bit of time because you'll find it interesting as well. Like, don't just rush and not do any research into a project. You know, even if you feel like you're about to miss the boat or whatever else, spend a bit of time looking into it before you put your money into it. Do your own research. That's what I would say, because that's going to help save a lot of pain down the line, I would say.
Absolutely.
Great tip.
Good one.
All right, Richie, and how can people find you and how can they find out more about Cryptopia? Can you tell us a bit about your socials?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we've got all sorts of socials, as you would imagine. First port of call for anyone that doesn't know anything about us other than watching this podcast today, go to our website, which is cryptopia-group.com. That tells all the basic information about who we are, what we do. Got all the NFT minting on there as well. All of our socials are linked from our website. So our YouTube channel, which is updated, or new videos going out pretty much daily at the moment. We have a Discord, which is kind of where most of our social activity is done, or community activity, I should say, is done from. So head over there. It's free to join. There are some members only access areas, but you don't have to get involved in any of that. You can still be part of the community. So check that out. We have a Twitter as well, an Instagram, etc. So you can find all of that from our website. But yeah, Discord really is where most of the action is happening, and then obviously the YouTube channel as well.
Excellent. And
Awesome.
from our community's point of view, just understand that there's alpha inside what, Richie's saying. He started in a fiat job like most people. He pivoted by trying and experimenting. Now he's in full-time crypto. So that in itself is the alpha that each week we try to tell you guys, hey, start the journey and just go on that ride and keep learning so that you can start to say, well, if I really want to get into the space and really want to give it a go, all right, don't just quit, Mike, don't just quit unless you've got some good ammo in the bank, but start the journey until you can pivot over. And Richie, really thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. There's a lot of important things inside this episode, and we appreciate your time.
Oh, it's been a real pleasure, guys. Thanks very much for having me. I really appreciate it. And carry on doing what you're doing, because if it helps, inspire someone else to, to do what, me or you guys have done in some way, shape or form, then that can only be a good thing. So kudos to you.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot, Richie.
Thanks,
man. Ciao.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
The material and information presented in this recording are for entertainment purposes only. Do not misconstrue what you hear as investment or trading advice. Always do your own research. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the guests on this recording are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Dad's Gone Crypto or its hosts.